Hi everybody, this is Gil Gregg. Glad you could join me once again. And today we're going to talk about glues and putties. And the reason I decided to do this was I've been getting a lot of emails from folks who've been watching the Shuttle Build series about what products I use and how I use them. So I thought it might be useful to take a little time out here and just kind of spend a few minutes going over them. Now, this is aimed primarily at the beginning or intermediate modeler. If you are very experienced, then you no doubt are familiar with most of these, if not all of them, and you've kind of figured out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And what I'm going to show you is what works for me. And if you do things a little bit differently, as no doubt many of you do, as long as that works for you, that's great. If you learn something from this and it helps you out, then that's great too. Now I'm going to start out here with what I call the trusty tester's tube glue. Now, if you built models as a kid, you no doubt have some experience with this, and that, quite frankly, is one of the reasons I still have it on my workbench here. It reminds me of the good old days, and this and an X-Acto knife are probably the only things that still are being produced in the good old days. I like this because it doesn't dry too quick. You can put it on parts and put the parts and slide them around in position, get them positioned like you want to, and then you can apply more rapidly acting liquid cement and fix the parts in place. But this is good. I usually use it on locating pins. Some folks don't like it. It can be kind of stringy if you don't work rapidly. If it starts to dry, it'll get a little bit stringy on you. But again, I like it, and it works for me. Now, if you don't like the tube glue, an alternative you might consider would be the tester's liquid glue in this container. And this is not really thin, it's not really thick, it's kind of in the middle. And if you like the putting the drop of cement on the locating pin like I do before you put parts together, then this is a good precise way of doing it. It's got a little top here with a needle applicator. The only negative about this is the needle applicator will sometimes get a little dirty and clogged up. Now, they do sell a reamer with this, or not sell a reamer with it, but when you purchase this, you get a reamer with it, and that will clog out or unclog this tube. Another way of unclogging the tube is just take a match and kind of put it underneath here, and that'll heat up and basically burn off any cement that's in that tube. Now, of course, all the disclaimers apply here. Don't catch the glue on fire, catch yourself on fire. Adult use here. Make sure you know what you're doing, and be careful. So that's another one for you. Next up, we have the famous Tamiya Extra Thin. This has become very popular in recent years, and no modeler should be without this on their workbench. It works by capillary action, and you put two parts together and you run the little brush that comes with it along the seam, and then the capillary action takes the solvent all around where the seam is. This is acetone based, so it does smell a little bit. It gives you a little bit of open working time, not a great deal, but enough to do your final positioning. This is Mr. Cement S. This, I think, is made by the same folks that make Gunzi Sanyo, although it doesn't say that on the side of it. And it's pretty much the same thing as Tamiya Extra Thin. It's a thin solvent. It works by capillary action. Pretty much the same properties. So if you don't have any extra thin around, you can use this instead. You'll see me using it. Pretty much the same stuff. Good thing about both of these is they have wide base bottles, so you're not going to tip them over so easy, which is unlike the next product we're going to talk about, which is Tanex 7R. Now, it's been out for a while. It was out of production for a little bit, but now it's back in full force. You can find it in most hobby shops. My local hobby shop likes to put retail price stickers right over the label, right over what it is. I don't know why they do that, but they do that with a lot of things. But in any case, this is pretty good stuff. The big difference between this and the Tamiya Extra Thin is this works much faster, and it evaporates much quicker, and it gives you a little bit of a stronger bond, I think. Negative is it's methyl ethyl ketone, I think it's how it's pronounced, based, and that's a little more of a hazardous chemical than acetone is, and the appropriate cautions and warnings are on the side here. Maybe that's why they put the the price tag on the front instead of the side, so to make sure that the warnings are there. I've just got a little simple hair, beret thing with a glue brush so that it doesn't get separated. These are very, very easy to tip over, and I have spilled them plenty of times, believe me. There's some products out there where you can put them in, and it'll keep them from tipping over. Alright. Next thing up, we're going to get a little thicker now. This is Tamiya cement. Tamiya, however you want to say it. This is good for if you have two parts that have some flat area that are going to be in contact with each other. You can brush this on both sides, or one side if you want, and then you put the pieces together, and you'll have time to do that because this will not dry or evaporate so quick. Good stuff. It's good for like wing halves, tail halves, things like that. This is not as common, it's not as easy to get in the States as the extra thin. Most hobby shops are carrying the extra thin, but this sometimes you'll have to order. Word hasn't gotten out on this yet. Alright. I'll sip a drink there. Okay, next up. Plastrek plastic weld. This is put out by the Plastrek folks, obviously. And they have a whole lot of plastic that they put out that you can use for scratch building. And this is a cement specifically designed to work with their plastic. It works with any polystyrene, however. It's pretty strong, probably about the strongest of the glues that I have up here. And it's a little bit thicker than extra thin, but it's not as thick as the Tamiya cement in the orange bottle, or the orange top bottle, I should say. I will generally use this on interior surfaces that are not going to be dressed. If you put a drop of this on, if you drop some of this on a model surface that's going to be a dress edge, then it's going to mar the plastic. So internal surfaces only, or something that's going to be covered, like I've used it to put on the space shuttle landing gear doors, because I'm going to putty and cover all that up, so it's no big deal. But I would be very careful with this if I was working on the top, so that it didn't drop on the wing surfaces that have a detail on them. So good stuff. Alright, now then of course there is the classic Elmer's for canopies and clear parts. Everybody knows about that. And Testers makes its version of this as well, except I find that you have to kind of shake this up a little bit, or else it's a little bit watery. It says you can use this to make clear windows too, like on airliners. Haven't tried that yet with this. And then let me see what else. We have some 5-minute 2-part epoxy, and you'll find occasion to use that once in a while for things that you really need strength on. And of course super glue. I pretty much use super glue for things like weapons, ordnance, fuel tanks, things I'm going to hang on the aircraft that are already finished parts, and you can't really use a regular glue on them, and you need something that's going to be strong enough to hold them. Now, the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to glues is this little product right here. Now, this is what's called a touch and flow, and this is put out by Flexifile, and it's a great idea. The concept is you put it in liquid cement, and through capillary action the liquid cement is drawn up into the tube, and then you take it and you put it on whatever model part you need to put it on, and it allows you to precisely apply this liquid glue. It's a great idea, and it works, and there's some folks out there that really, really like it. However, I find it to be a little more trouble than it's worth, because I have yet been able to use this without spilling more solvent than I'm actually using, more glue than I'm actually using. Now, they did come out with a kit with a little refill bottle like this, and I tried that, and I still spilled a significant amount of it. So to me, the hassle's not worth it, although some people can use it just fine. I'd rather just stick with something like the Tamiya Extra Thin or the Tan-X, and I get just as good results from that. Alright, so that's it when it comes to solvents, or I should say glues, solvent-based glues. And so we'll stop there, and then we'll move on to putties in the next segment.